This morning, I offer to you a short litany of my personal burdens. Heavy burdens that have prevented me from connecting with other humans. At multiple times throughout my life, when I have thought about reaching out to another person, there have been these burdens from time to time, endless worry and countless fear that have kept me from doing it. The burdens are so heavy, I become convinced it's better to not send that message. It's better to not go to that meeting. It's better to not voice my opinion. It's better to stay home and stay silent. So I offer you this short litany of the burdens that tend to weigh me down so much that I don't reach out, I don't do what I'm called to do. And I offer them to you because maybe you've shared these same burdens. What if I don't fit in? What if no one understands where I've been or what I've been through? What if I've done something to upset someone? Maybe I don't know enough. Maybe I know too much. Maybe I don't have enough money. Maybe I have too much money. What if I offend someone? What if someone else offends me? What if I can't actually do anything to change the situation? What if I just make it worse? I won't know what to say. I'll probably embarrass myself. I'm too young to understand this. I am too old to understand this. I have too much going on in my own life right now. I need to care for myself before I can care for others. I just don't have the time. What if I really mess things up? Could anybody possibly forgive me? What if they don't look like me? What if they don't think like I think? What if they don't share my beliefs or my values? I am often burdened by this endless litany of worry and fear. So in Genesis chapter 24, there's a reason why we're telling the story and not reading the story, and that's because it's a very short story that in the Bible just goes on and on and on for a really long time. So we're going to tell this story very concisely. Abraham wanted to find a wife for his son Isaac. And Isaac is not part of this process at all. Seems weird. Maybe he should be. But Abraham has a lot of wealth. Abraham has a lot of sheep and cows, and he has a large land that is in his charge. He has servants to do everything for him, including hunting for a wife for his son. Emily and I met online, and it occurred to me when I was reading this story earlier this week that maybe having a servant find your son a mate was like the first version of online dating. You just send him out into the world. And so Abraham called his servant and he said, I want you to go back to my homeland and find a wife for Isaac. God will do this for you. God will provide everything you need, including the person Isaac is supposed to marry. For Abraham, it's easy to trust that God has brought him this far. God will do everything that needs to be done. This is going to be an easy project. But for many, many, many reasons, the servant has a lot of worry. He has a lot of anxiety and questions about what's going to happen, including, how am I supposed to know what your son wants in a wife? What do I do when I get there? How will I know her when I see her? What am I supposed to do for a dowry for her? And also, just spitballing here, what am I supposed to do if this young woman doesn't want to come with me to a strange country and marry a man that she's never met before? Endless worry, endless concern. He has all these big questions about how's it going to work? What's supposed to happen? And Abraham says, God will provide, go. And that's exactly what happens. The guy goes to another country, he goes to a well, he meets Rebecca, who is immediately seen as generous and loving, and he says, would you like to come home and marry my master's son? And she says, well, yeah, I would like to. And that's exactly what happens. It is the most boring story. There's no conflict, that nothing unexpected happens. God lines it all up, and everything is totally easy. And the reason why it takes pages and pages in the Bible to read this very short story is because the servant is so amazed at how easy the whole thing is that he tells the story to everybody he meets. He's expecting everything in the world to go wrong, and nothing does. And so he's at the well, and he's telling people, I'm here to find a wife for my servant Abraham, for his son Isaac. And he's so amazed at how well it goes that he tells Rebecca the story. And then he tells Rebecca's brother the story. And then he tells Rebecca's mother the story. And then he goes back home, and he tells Abraham the story, and he tells Isaac the story. And Isaac and Rebecca lock eyes, and it's over from there. They get married, they have kids, they live happily ever after. He's so amazed at how easy it is, he spends 5 pages in certain Bibles just telling the same story over and over and over. We burden ourselves with worry. And when none of our self-created worries come to pass, we think it's a miracle. And in our gospel reading this morning, Jesus wants us to know that this is just the way things are. The most important things in our lives are easy. Jesus critiques the people of his age, saying they are like children, always throwing a temper tantrum when things don't go their way. I played the flute for you and you didn't dance. I'm crying and you're not mourning with me. We don't like John because he doesn't eat right. And we don't like Jesus because he eats too much and he drinks too much. And he's sharing a table with people he really oughtn't to. Tax collectors, sinners, and the like. He should really be more careful about who he chooses to connect with. And in contrast to these people who don't stop coming up with excuses, with reasons why they're not going to connect, they're not going to reach out, they're not going to serve or love their neighbor. Jesus gives thanks to God that wisdom will bear out. Jesus gives thanks that the kingdom is hidden right there amongst them. He compares the people to children, and then he gives thanks that God has hidden the kingdom from learned scholars and academic adults and professionals of all kinds, and only children will find it. The kingdom is not something that can be earned or learned or achieved. It's something hidden that only curious children will go out and find. Jesus invites his followers to take on his yoke, which is easy, and to share his burdens, which are light. Life is difficult enough without inserting our own constant litany of worry and fear. Last week, when I attended our UCC General Synod in Baltimore, I was given a wonderful gift. My heavy burdens were made light. I've grown up in the UCC. I've spent 35 years building relationships with all kinds of different churchgoers and youth and adults and clergy and lay leaders and seminarians and seminaries and local churches and conference churches. Have you ever had a place where like all the important people from your past are gathering together in one spot? It was sort of like a high school reunion meets a college reunion meets a grad school reunion meets like an ex-partner's marriage that you're just inserting yourself in for 7 days. I was really nervous. I carried all these burdens, all these worries about how I would be received among all these people who have known me for so long. I was really worried. Will I be accepted as a friend, and will people greet me with hugs? Or will we just talk about all the ways I have failed them in the past? Will it be fun and we'll get to laugh and enjoy reminiscing? Or will it just be a lot of blaming for things that have gone wrong and reminders of my most intimate embarrassments and failures? I was really concerned about it, and within moments, all that worry melted away. Because we are a church of covenant relationship. The motto of the UCC is taken from John 17:21, that they may all be one. The God we worship is the living, loving, divine creator of all things, and that God invites us into covenant relationship with God and with one another. When we are guided by covenant relationship, we find a way of living that is completely antithetical to our wider culture. Our culture tells us we need to work hard and earn everything we have in life. And that idea begins with ideas about our money, and it trickles all the way down to ideas about our relationships with one another. We are told all the time that living in loving, respectful relationships with one another is hard work, that it's really difficult to do, nearly impossible to relate to one another. We place a lot of emphasis on how you need to protect yourself from other people because it's so challenging to relate to others, and other people are so judgmental, and really you can't trust anybody anyway, so you got to be wary and skeptical all the time. It's such hard work. But when we are guided by covenant relationship, when we are practicing our particular brand of faith, we find in the presence of one another a vast and deep river of love and justice that flows freely and abundantly with room for all people. And we find that connecting with our siblings of faith is as easy and natural as breathing. We find that it takes a lot more work to prevent ourselves from connecting rather than just sharing in the river together. Friends, life is hard enough without our constant worry and work. God has given us a remarkable gift in one another. We have a couple hundred people right here in our own community. We have several thousand people stretched all across the country. We have millions of people around the world, including interfaith partners of all stripes. And God has given us all to one another with only one big task: to share in this life together. Our faith teaches us that there is nothing more important for us to do than to gather, to sit with one another, to eat together, and practice loving one another as ourselves, for just who we are. We don't need to take any classes to understand this. There are no prerequisites. We don't need to know anything in particular. We don't even need to know each other very well at all. We simply need to be willing to lay down our burdens, to get out of our heads, to stop worrying and fretting about things that if they do happen, it'll be because we worried so much that we made them happen. And we need to proclaim that the most important thing we can do in this life is also the easiest thing to do. Share joy. Share sorrow. Share this life with one another. Our vision in this church, our vision of the future, is to build upon our strong foundation to help realize God's kingdom in this world. This is essential work. This is vital work. Friends, it is not hard work. It's easy. Our burdens are light because we share them with one another. We simply need to show up. There's an entire realm of love and justice that is hidden right here among us in our ordinary daily lives. And you are now invited to turn in your bulletins to the insert to sing this world, to reveal this world through song. It's that easy. Let's sing together.